Pro Wrestling channel. My name is Scott and we are here to break down the card for Clash in Italy. It's the time of the month when the PLE hits and we build up towards it. We're going to break down all the cards, all the big stories going into Clash in Italy right after this.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
All right, and as ever, the action is right here on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel on the night of a PLE. I say night of a PLE. It kind of depends what you're watching around the world, right? We're getting into the early part of the evening here in the UK, of course, being another European nation, and this PLE, of course, is taking place in Europe in the form of Italy. So really looking forward to watching this at a reasonable time. I appreciate those in America watching this a little bit earlier than they usually would. But yeah, we're going to break down this card. We're going to get hyped up and in the mood, no matter what time of day it is. It's all about getting all of us excited about the PLE, and I think it's got a pretty interesting card actually. I've been catching up on everything myself today because I've had a busy couple of weeks, but I've just caught up with everything that's going on in time to kind of get excited about this show itself. Of course, we had Saturday night's main event recently, so we'll probably touch on some of the big stories coming out of that, and Raw and SmackDown. Of course, there was a huge main event that took place in Mexico last night that I think we might even touch on as well. But to do that, I'm going to bring in Lucas in just a moment. And again, we'll break down the card. We'll talk about all the kind of big stories that are with us as we head towards Clash in Italy. Now, of course, the Clash name started a few years back in this form, at least, with Clash at the Castle, and it was incredible. We got to go there and represent Rebellious Noise and do some great interviews and stuff like that. So I know a lot of you joined us at that time, and then of course since then it's been in Glasgow as well. This time round. It was also in Paris last year. This time they've continued that European flavour, but they've moved it to Italy. So I'm looking forward to seeing what WWE do and how the Italian fans react to it. Of course, SmackDown was in Barcelona. A great crowd there, as you would expect, just like there was last year on the Barcelona leg of the European tour. But as I say, I'm going to bring in Lucas now just so we can break down this card and kind of get you guys and us hyped up and in the mood for this show as well. Lucas, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm well, thanks, mate. Obviously, just got the countdown show on in the background. Obviously, Big E is there. It seems that they are outside the arena. Michael Cole started the show from inside the arena. I'm not too sure what he was saying, as I was also just faffing around trying to get up for this. But obviously, we have got a developing story. I'm not sure whether you are aware, but there has been heavily rumoured things that Fatu is injured and may not be able to compete tonight at Clash in Italy. He injured himself on the house show in Liverpool. He was seen limping to the backstage on Thursday, and there's been a lot of concern about that. They haven't addressed it yet, WWE. They did obviously roll a lot of the promotional material that was already scheduled on SmackDown. That was pre-recorded video packages that they already recorded. They obviously hadn't ran a show yesterday, not a WWE branded show yesterday, and so they yet to make anything just yet. And obviously there are signs for all gas no brakes, Mr. Fatu. So maybe things aren't quite as bad as they seem. As yet to get an announcement either way. But we obviously, the pre-show, I think it's only just started, and obviously we will wait for more information. But it would be kind of bonkers if the main event just isn't going to be the main event anymore. I can't think of many times this has happened, especially this close, to the PLE. Often we get matches that are announced, and then maybe it's like 2 weeks or 3 weeks before someone gets pulled. They never use the main event, though, is it?
No, it's quite rare. I mean, the big one that we always, I think, go back to was it day one, where it seemed to change the face of WWE as we know it with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. That match not taking place, as far as I recall. But yeah, I mean, that's what these build-up shows are all about. I did not know that, Lucas, because yeah, as you kind of were, as I pointed out, I've been trying to catch up myself, and I haven't really been able to see anything beyond the highlights, really. So quite yeah, quite big news to kind of discuss there as far as what they might do instead of it. As you say, they haven't acknowledged it, so acknowledge, what a word. We'll have to see if they actually kind of just announce it off the bat, or if they play into it with a story. Maybe they can't do the full match, but they kind of do some kind of schmoz or something like that early on. I mean, this is what do they call it? Not Bloodline Rules, whatever they call it these days. But basically, it's a no DQ match, right? So they can kind of get away with a few things here, even if he is injured. Let's run through the card itself. Again, we do, at time of kind of recording and going live, we do expect to see Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu, but it might not be the case. You kind of alluded to it there. I expect it, especially if it does go ahead as normal, to be the main event. But, of course, something that could challenge that is Cody Rhodes versus Gunther for the WWE Championship. We've got that to look forward to on this card as well. We also set to... Oh, it's official. Okay, brilliant. Yeah. So Becky Lynch versus Ruca as well. The IC title on the line. Of course, a rematch from Saturday night's main event. Then we also have Oba versus Lesnar too. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this, Lucas, because the last time we went live, Lesnar seemed to be retired. So we'll touch on that quite a bit, I'm sure. Jade Cargill is looking to recapture gold by, hopefully, in her eyes at least, taking it off of Rhea Ripley in the WWE Women's Championship match. And again, just to recap, Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu, this time for the World Heavyweight gold, but maybe there'll be a twist in this again if rumors are to be believed even that Jacob Fatu may not be able to compete. Let me just quickly run through some of these comments, Lucas, and then again we'll dive into some of the conversation here as well. Mark's in the house. Mark says, for me, Gunther has to beat Cody tonight, because if he doesn't, Gunther's credibility dies, and to be honest, Cody doesn't need the win. I think that's a common theme for Cody quite often, but we'll see how we go with that one. Also says as well, I can see Rhea winning, Brock winning, and Roman winning. I can also see Becky Lynch winning. So those are the predictions from Mark there. Saying also, with Roman match, there is a plan B if Jacob Fatu is out. But I have a feeling that he has been cleared for tonight, as kind of Lucas speculated just a moment ago as well. And also says, I also don't think not a single match goes past 15 minutes. I do feel like it's going to be a short show, I'll be honest, and I'm not against that, to be honest. I'm a bit tired at the moment. Apart from Roman versus Jacob, says Mark, as far as one's going over 15 minutes. Michael says, guys, I will say when you get a chance to watch Gable versus Ludwig from last night. Well, again, I hope we will touch on a little bit that. I got a feeling we will, but yeah, fantastic.
What Mark said about it being a short show.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, Backlash was 2 hours 20. All in, and obviously with the international events, you do seem to notice that they don't obviously have to rely so much on the advertisements. I think maybe because they realise that their main demographic, being the Americans, obviously don't all watch this live, do they?
Yeah.
They have to watch obviously on delay, so maybe it's not as appealing to the advertising. But yeah, Backlash was 2 hours 20. Obviously, Saturday night's main event was just over 2 hours. Probably going to edit it down now, I would have thought, just to get to the 2 hour mark. Needed for obviously if it does have repeat presentations or whatever. So yeah, we have had a couple of very short shows. And obviously this followed WrestleMania, particularly night one, where we were 3.5 hours in to this thing with all the adverts, and we're barely seeing we're seeing barely any matches go above 10 minutes. I think, something they're kind of missing is that they used to just do more matches. That was the answer to this. I remember for years that the cut off was 3 hours, wasn't it? For pay per view, it was 3 hours, and most pay per view, particularly in the 2000s, would go around 2 hours 50, 2 hours 55. You never wanted to go like right up to it, but you saw in that time six or seven matches. And you had the pre-show before, or Sunday Night Heat.
A few backstage bits as well. I mean, these days it is. If it's long, it's because of ads, basically. Yeah. You're right. If you take the ads out of it, the shows tend to be about 2 to 2.5 hours.
Yeah, and obviously back in the day, we didn't get 10-minute entrances for everyone. Now we get 10-minute entrances for every single match. Could you imagine it being like 2002 and like Nunzio's making you break to the ring and it's taking 10 minutes? For the Cruiserweight title match on first, it's going to go 5 minutes. You're laughing, but this is basically what it is now. Look, tonight's card is an interesting one. I've got a lot of mixed feelings about it, because something we've touched upon previously, Scott. Obviously, we've covered. Just guys, we cover obviously most of the WWE PLEs. We've covered a few NXT ones as well. but we love covering the European tour, as it just works perfect for us time wise. Obviously, being Brits,
Yeah.
but we have covered a lot of international shows, haven't we? And obviously, we exclude Saudi shows for now because they're their own kind of separate beast. But definitely European shows, which we've had. You touched upon it. We had Clash in Paris. We've had Clash at the Castle in both Scotland and the good one that was in Wales. We've had, and we've
The
also
really good one.
had Money in the Bank over here in the United Kingdom, amongst other various TV tapings throughout Europe, including Germany, Spain, France, Italy, the Netherlands. If I miss any out, let me know. But yeah, most of Europe basically.
Belgium.
Belgium, yeah, we have Belgium, of course, that's where John Cena Kid came from.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had all these events take place. But something we have said before is that they are being a little bit cheeky with some of their events, with how they promote them. They are very much sometimes seen as like B shows, you know, and we felt it a few times. And sometimes, you know, often they have been very good. But I do think, you know, as time goes on, we're getting more of them. If every time they're coming, they're just going to basically play it safe, take it easy. People are going to be conditioned to that. And there has been an overall lack of big moments at these shows, definitely since the first few. And so tonight, I just fear that they may just play it safe yet again, which I think would be the wrong decision. Yeah, big time. I think there's two matches in particular where I'm looking for, you know, something to change, something to happen. And I don't think we're going to get it, and I think that's a bigger problem, you know, in this company, and potentially for the direction of, you know, future international events, because essentially they're going to paint it in a way of like, if it's not Saudi, you know, we're just not going to bother essentially. You know,
and then if it doesn't feel like it's worth watching for the fans, viewership will drop off, and it'll be blamed on the time zones and all that kind of stuff. And that's not the case. I'm with you. I mean, some of these have felt like glorified house shows. Some of them have had somewhat big moments, especially like I say the earlier ones. But I go into this exactly the same. I don't feel like this is, and I don't like that I'm saying it, but I don't feel this is a proper PLE. And I felt like about the Saturday night's main events as well. I know, again, they're not technically PLEs, but they certainly are meant to be special shows. They don't feel like that anymore. And it feels like a lot of the shows are starting to feel like C shows, let alone B shows. Whereas you look at the card, I mean, the card is, maybe this sounds a bit weird to say, but it's almost WrestleMania worthy. Like, you look at some of the, especially you look at like, you get the past and the present, or you know, the future, if you will, of Sol Ruca and Becky Lynch. It's been a good feud. You got Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu, where there's a lot of storyline behind that. You got Cody versus Gunther, two big mega stars in that as well. Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley. I mean, that could be a WrestleMania match in itself. There's one more. Oba and Brock, of course, is a rematch from a WrestleMania match. So it is a very good card. It's just whether or not, as you say, they end up playing it safe, and we come out of it going, yeah, cool, some fun moments, but like, did it really matter?
Yeah, like I think interesting you touch upon there being obviously WrestleMania type matches. There are obviously rematches from WrestleMania. WrestleMania, which again we need to remind ourselves was only 6 weeks ago. You know, 6 weeks ago we were watching WrestleMania, night 1 and night 2, and we saw Brock versus Oba. We saw Jade versus Rhea. You know, that these matches, they're not fresh. You know, they're both matches we saw 6 weeks ago. And if you add into the fact that we obviously saw Rhea and Jade on opposing teams, you know, last week at Saturday Night Event, we've seen this combination. It's not fresh. And I just fear that they're playing it very, very safe. And again, I hate having to go back to this, but essentially, yeah, we used to get more matches to kind of help with this. And now we don't. It just brings the focus on the ones that we do get. And you just look, they're all rematches. Becky and Sol, it is a fresh program, but they had a match last week, so it's still a rematch from something they've done previously. But it is the freshest of all the programs going, you know.
Even though it's a rematch,
But it is a rematch. Yeah. The whole show is rematches. Not just that. The whole show, just excluding the main event at the moment, you know, the current advertised main event, is just singles matches. Just you know, even though obviously the main event is obviously a tribal combat match, so we know that what that means. That means other people will interfere. That's an easy way. It's a lazy way of basically getting to that, isn't it? about having to have referee
Yeah.
vote, all that kind of nonsense. They're just saying to us now, people will interfere in this match, just so you know.
It'd be more shocking if they didn't.
So yeah, you will see more wrestlers than the 10 wrestlers that are advertised to compete in the sanctioned matches that are on the card. But still, like, well, like I just miss like the fun of like that they used to do with some of the matches. You know what I mean? Like you watch some of the old like it's not even. And if I say old, I'm talking like just even during COVID or pre-COVID, or just after COVID, even. You know when they would just have fatal four ways for the IC title on the PLE, or the US title, or there'd be what's happening to obviously Ober and Lesnar is a non-title feud, but there's so few like non-title feuds that get to be spotlighted on these things now, because of the fact they've got to have two world. They got they're only having 5 matches. They've got to have 2 world championship matches. How they feel it. They've got to have 2 world championship matches at least, and because they've got the men and the women. If you give 2 to the men, you've got to give at least 1 to the women, haven't you? So that instantly takes up 3 of your 5 matches, which we've got tonight. We've got obviously the World Heavyweight Championship, we've got the WWE title, and we've got the WWE Women's Championship. And then you go, okay, we need like a mid-card belt, and they just pick at random, it seems, to go, either it's going to be the women's IC, the men's IC. Sometimes the men's US. Never did women's at the US, though.
I forgot that existed.
Outside of the TV side of things. And then they just, obviously, let's be real, it's only Brock versus Ober because it's Brock. If it wasn't Brock versus Ober, it would just be probably Seth and Braun again, probably, isn't it? Just to continue.
It's also it's really strange that they've kind of somewhat moved away from at least a few months ago or a year ago. You could say that they felt like almost different rosters, like different storylines were featured on like one show and not the other. And that was the reason X feud missed Y show, because they were going to be on, the next show. Whereas you look back to Saturday night's main event, it was basically almost a go home to this. Like, if I was at that show, I would have felt quite disappointed. Not only in that the caliber of how that show is being perceived has already dropped anyway, but on top of that, it was basically, don't worry, this will be solved in Italy. And it's like, oh, well, I'm not in Italy, mate. I'm here. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, that's one thing at a Raw or a SmackDown, but it's another thing to be at what is supposed to be a big show in itself. So they weren't really using those shows the way, again, they've been doing it before, where one week has got there is overlap, there tends to be overlap, but I feel like these 2 shows are so much more linked than they ever have been lately. So quite disappointing in that sense.
Yeah, I think that some of the main event used to have build to it at least, didn't it? But now it's just like nothing. Liv Morgan is on the Countdown show. Maybe she discussed why she didn't defend a title in the 6 weeks since WrestleMania, and why apparently no woman on Raw seems to want to have a title match.
Nobody wants it.
There's all these women backstage who just walk around and apparently don't want to wrestle. But then, Liv Morgan is on the pre-show at the moment on the Countdown show. Big crowd there. Obviously, something we have to say about European fans: we always turn up. We always turn up. Like I said, I went to.
Great.
I think there was some footage on this channel. I obviously went to Barcelona last year for SmackDown.
Yeah.
On a very, very, very rainy day. But there were still, thousands of us outside the Olympic arena, the arena that actually used to SmackDown this week as well, actually. And, we came out in full force. It was a very loud crowd to watch a show, which was actually quite good, to be fair. And, you can see from, obviously, the people outside the arena on the pre-show, there's a lot of love. And that's another reason we're going back to this. Let's just not play it safe. And I just think because the competition or the alternative, whatever you wanted to call AEW, because they're not playing it safe and they're taking risks and like they're having events that are very well received. Surely it's got to push someone in WWE to say, look, we can't keep doing this. Like, we can't keep every single month just going for the safest option possible. We just saw like an AEW pay-per-view where we saw stipulation matches, we saw tag team matches, we saw title matches, we saw title changes, and it just feels like tonight, probably spoiling a lot of my prediction by saying this, given the fact that almost everything's a title match, but we're probably going to get champion retained all night. Maybe someone different will appear in the main event. One of the many multiple multiverses of the Samoans that haven't maybe appeared in the company yet might appear. But it's not a surprise anymore. Like it loses the surprise factor, like of the first, second time, doesn't it? It's like
I mean, it's the constant in
15,000
those kind of
times
matches.
happened.
Yeah.
It's no longer a surprise. Diminishing
Yeah,
returns.
it's even gone
They are
past
showing
the
Rhea
meme
Ripley
of like
arriving
who's
as well.
showing up.
Quite
Yeah,
interesting.
Rhea Ripley's on.
Her history with Liv Morgan, who was just on the show. But yeah, Rhea Ripley. She got to meet her her nonna. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, Rhea Ripley.
No, I think
Sorry.
I
You're
think
talking about the
it's
nonna. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
so it's just there's quite a few people on the roster from Italian descent that aren't even on the show, and you'd think they'd take advantage of that as well.
Yeah, Julia.
Quite interesting point. I mean, there's always going to be rumors about Santino, for example. You never know. You never know. I know he's not. Again, the way he debuted was in Milan and stuff like that as well. Let me get some of these comments, Lucas, and then we'll dive into the card itself and we'll make our predictions. Mark says, wouldn't be surprised if they do focus on it in the match and write him out with that injury. Again, talks about rumors around Jacob Fatu. Also says Sol Ruca just said on screen that she's medically cleared. Sol Ruca says that she is now medically cleared to complete ahead of women's Intercontinental Championship match at Clash in Italy. I'm doing great. I showed up today. I was not medically cleared before this, apparently. So I came in, went to the doctor's office, and they cleared me. I'm ready to go. So they've already got a story they're going to play into here, at least, with people being medically cleared. So it'd be weird if they did it twice, seeing as you have a legit one. Speaking of Santino, Mark also says, I also have this bugging feeling that Santino is in attendance. It'd be strange if they didn't use him, especially with that relationship they got with TNA these days. It'd be beneficial, I think, for TNA as well. Full Finish says one plan is Jacob out and McIntyre in. That could be a possibility. McIntyre hasn't been seen for quite some time as well. It would definitely change. I mean, the storyline will be completely different, but you've got to deliver something to the fans, right? Roman has arrived, says Mark, and lives part Italian, I guess, says Mark as well. Again, touching on that Italian descent thing. What else do we have? Soul is cleared or not? Because I haven't heard any tweets about it, says Gabriella. Gabriella, apparently, she said on the pre-show, on the countdown, that she is cleared as well. I'm just going to hand over to you for a moment, Lucas, while I do a little bit of work in the background. But why don't you take over talking a little bit about Sol Ruca and her kind of rise into this position she's now in?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course, guys. So, yeah, obviously, while Scott's gone, we're talking about Sol Ruca. And obviously, I don't have the power to put the top comments on screen, but I'll have the comments on the side. So, any comments that you do have, I'll just read. They won't come up on the screen, though. But yeah, so Sol Ruca. I think that there's a lot of opinion about her, how she debuted on the main roster and, whether they're treating her right. And I have to say, they're treating her fine. She's been now, this will now be her first PLE. She's obviously been on Saturday Night Main Event and she's been on Raw every single week. And TV time in this company, in this industry, is golden. And I think that ultimately she has got the TV time. She's getting a vehicle behind her. I do think there's been a few nerves. There's been a lot of nerves. With some of her performances. I think maybe, going from obviously wrestling people on NXT to wrestling people live on Raw, is a whole different thing. But I do believe that she will be someone that he really want to build the women's division around, and they absolutely should jump both feet, into this. And obviously, she's facing Becky Lynch tonight, for the IC Touch Championship, and this is the one where I'm thinking, let's do a change. Becky's obviously, she held that belt for the best part of a year now, I think, or at least 9 months or so. Obviously on and off, she lost to Maxine, lost to AJ, obviously. But I do think it's one where we can afford. Triple H is arriving, guys. I'm assuming he wants the main character and be opening the show as always. I don't know if we've seen. I haven't seen during my thing. I don't know if any guys in the comments can think. Oh, they are now showing. Okay, they are now showing a preview of the Tribal Combat. We're showing a recap of what happened on Raw, or obviously when the challenge was issued. But it's on the still to come, and it's obviously all what's happened previously. But obviously, it's interesting they show Triple H arriving just before that. I think they're going to go to a break now. Yeah, they are going to a break now. So we shall follow that when that comes back. So we've got some more comments in as well. Let's see one about Drew. About Drew returning in Scotland from a Gabriella. So Drew returning in Scotland. So obviously, Scott, you mentioned about obviously if it's not going to be Jacob, that Drew could be a thing. And just to clarify, there's only one Clash this year. And it's obviously today in Italy. I don't know.
Are they doing Scotland on the TV tour though?
Don't think it is. They were moaning about it. I'm pretty certain it's not on the TV tour. And obviously London twice.
London's on twice, yeah.
I don't think Scotland is for the thing. But yeah, like I don't see the need to rush Drew back just yet. I don't think that's.
It's got to be a big moment when he comes back as well, right?
Yeah. I think. Yeah, you can save that for something separate. There's other options there that would be a bit more like easy to go into. But yeah, I wouldn't expect to see Drew McIntyre back tonight. But stranger things have happened.
Yeah. I mean, if they have to call an audible and they have to do something, it's an option for them, right? And I don't think they'd plan to do that. But what else? I mean, what else do you think they would do if they've got to put Roman in action? Then Santino.
I think there's a few kind of options. There's a few safe options, right? There's two very safe options, but they could instantly kind of get something out of. Number one is Solo Sikoa, as is obviously for the Ula Fala, and he's got his budget bloodline.
Yeah.
Over on SmackDown.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It would make sense. And then number two is Sami Zayn. He's always a shout for this kind of match, this kind of scenario. But they are doing something weird with them at the moment, obviously, with the Cody. He's entangled with the Cody storyline. He's actually entangled in with a lot of storylines on SmackDown. It's pretty much half the show now. So, again, it would be kind of odd if he decides to have this side quest. One that has been brought up, I saw on some internet comments and stuff, is obviously CM Punk. Because CM Punk did basically say he's waiting for a championship opportunity to fall out the sky. And I think he'd be very, very dumb if he hasn't been able to hop on a plane in the anticipation that obviously there would be a vacant spot to go against the incumbent World Heavyweight Champion Roman Reigns. I think, that'd be very silly of him if he's looking for a championship opportunity. This is another thing where I think that they could really open it up to more than just the one person as well. There's a lot of people on this UK tour, on this European tour, do you know what I mean? A lot of people who it would be nice to see Roman mix up with, because obviously him being part-time, and obviously he's signed a deal recently where he's been doing less dates as well. Like, it'd be nice to see him mix it up with a few different people.
You got to imagine there's not many other opportunities to do that, right? If he's not around that often, and how many years is he going to stick around even at this level? You'd imagine he's going to be very limited about who he wrestles, and it's going to be very specific, feuds and stuff like that. So these are those rare opportunities where you can kind of shake it up, and maybe faces Penta or something like that. You're never going to see that otherwise.
People, if they wanted to make it a multi-person match, I think I'd argue you could throw someone like Finn Balor in there, Dominic Mysterio, merge that with a lot of Judgment Day stuff that's going on. And obviously, there's obviously another one which is a bit left field, but one of the Uso potentially. If they want to, I guess it all depends. Obviously whatever's going on. Obviously we are back now with the countdown show, so we will keep people posted, because just found it interesting. They showed Triple H arriving, then they showed the preview of the at the moment the main event for Clash in Italy, the Tribal Combat. So I don't know whether Triple H is maybe going to join them on the pre-show panel. Or there's going to be some sort of announcement or something. It might be nothing. But I don't know. I just found it very interesting. You know what I mean? Showing Triple H and showing that package. They're going to a break.
We see Roman Reigns as well.
Roman Reigns
looking.
They haven't shown Jacob Fatu yet. Maybe they will show him momentarily.
Yeah.
But it could be one of those things where they're even still thinking up what they're going to do. Obviously, we respect it's going to be an hour to the main show, and you have to imagine this match will be main event. So they went straight from Roman to
few hours to prepare, I guess. But they
went straight from Roman to Oba. They have not shown Jacob Fatu.
No Jacob Fatu,
new footage on this show. So far.
It would be a shame for Jacob Fatu, especially because he went away for a few months, and I think it really stifled his progression. I think he worked very hard and did very well to get back into a somewhat similar position that he'd kind of naturally built up before he went away. And now they've gone down this route of him basically being a heel again. it's yeah, it would be a shame. Another stop-start moment for Jacob Fatu. I mean, I'm with you. We'll get into our predictions a bit more in detail very soon. But spoiler alert, don't see him winning the title. Not here anyway. And if this match doesn't go ahead, then that maybe means that whatever would have been the next version of this match, the next PLE or SummerSlam, wherever they take it, might not happen either because depending on his severity of his injury or just kind of where else they go if there is a replacement in the match. We talk about day one a few years back when it seemingly changed the face of WWE because it went in a complete different direction, it felt. Let's get to breaking down the card itself then. A match that we do know is going to be taking place, and again, could in itself be a main event if they wanted to kind of shake things around in that sense, they could. But apparently it's set to open Cody Rhodes versus Gunther for the title. Now, again, this is an example where I would like to see a title change. I just don't know if we're going to see a title change. I think they're always going to be tempted to do something like that with Gunther in Europe. So there is that possibility. And I think Gunther beating Cody is quite the image anyway. Gunther's done some amazing things over the past few years, especially this past calendar, year in itself, 2025. He did some incredible things there. And then going into 2026, of course, retiring AJ Styles. So it definitely feels like that next step for Gunther. Even though he's been a champ before, he's never been the WWE champ. So it does feel like something that would make sense. He's kind of, maybe as a heel moment, it would make more sense in the States for the kind of European, the bad guy European to beat the good guy cookie cutter babyface American. So it depends on the reaction they want. Maybe they want a positive reaction for Gunther just because it will be viral. It doesn't matter if he's a bad guy. If he gets cheered in another country, then they can kind of explain it a bit. But yeah, this is an interesting one because again, if you put it somewhere else in the calendar, I think I'd be more inclined to pick Gunther as the winner. Because I feel the same as you, that this might be a paint by numbers type show and nothing massive happens. I just got a feeling that if there's any that does stay the same, it's going to be this one, even though this is probably the one I want to change the most. So I'm going to go with a Cody Rhodes win in this one. But at the same time, I won't be massively surprised because I think it does make sense to see Gunther beat Cody Rhodes at some point.
Yeah, it's very tough because obviously Cody, he won it back on the road to WrestleMania, on a very, very weird road to WrestleMania. And there hasn't really been anything regular about Cody Rhodes or the WWE Championship booking for quite some time. And let's not forget where we sat at the start of the year when Drew McIntyre defeated him to win the WWE Championship in a 3 Shades of Hell match. And we obviously very much, thought that we were going into WrestleMania with Drew McIntyre as champion. And then they got Cody back into the title picture and he won the belt back just after the Chamber. He then went into a very, very unique feud, I'll say, against Randy Orton, where somehow, despite it being Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton, with the WWE Championship, all three of those things were pushed very much to the bottom of the pile to put over Pat McAfee and Jelly Roll. Less Jelly Roll, but Pat McAfee definitely became the main focal point of that entire feud and WrestleMania build and the match itself. And we then got a post-match attack by Randy Orton, who is then believed to be, not believed to be, he is injured, following WrestleMania. And so we haven't had a continuation of that. And so they've kind of placed Gunther, they moved Gunther awkwardly over from Raw to SmackDown to have this feud and this rivalry. Because they kind of realised that the one thing they forgot to do in the whole year where John Cena was retiring, is they didn't build anyone up on the SmackDown brand to be able to face Cody Rhodes, whose name's not Drew McIntyre. They obviously moved LA Knight over to Raw. They've now obviously moved Jacob Fatu over to Raw. And they apparently is no one else that can face Cody Rhodes. So they've had
kind
to
of on his own, isn't he?
Gunther over, for this. It's an interesting one, this, because obviously Gunther, his record speaks for itself, doesn't it? He's, been a champion for so long in this company over multiple reigns, starting with the NXT UK belt, then the IC Championship, and then obviously his 2 runs to date with the World Heavyweight Championship, which obviously we're showing some of his victories now. He obviously retired retired AJ Styles.
It's got quite the CV, man.
Yeah. But does he have it on his CV to win the World Champion or the WWE Championship, in his home kind of territory? Home, somewhat,
Home continent.
Yeah, home continent, there we go. And the answer, I think, is no. I think that this is an example where I think they're going to play this so safe, and Cody will just win.
Right.
You know, and the previous to this is that Cody won the Crown Jewel match they had when they were obviously both world champions.
Oh, yeah.
About a couple of years ago now. But this is one where they could really disrupt things. You know, if Gunther win. But I do think, like you said, I think the biggest reaction for this is Gunther winning it in the United States, surely, to get that heat. Whereas tonight Cody's going up against a hostile crowd, we can imagine. Maybe a bit, let's say 50-50 at best, but may swing more, 70 or even 80, 20. Do you know what I mean? Like, in Gunther. So I don't know whether it would make sense to do the title change, but I wouldn't be against it. But I will go with, just because he's always bet on Rhodes, basically, I think he's only lost about 5 matches since he returned.
What's his new catchphrase? Easy to find, hard to beat.
Yeah. Everyone
hard
says
to
that.
be booked to lose.
Hard to beat. I'm showing my age with that, but anyway, I anticipate that the champion will still be Cody Rhodes.
Speaking of title matches, again, there's been a lot of speculation tonight. It's our evening, I should say, as to whether or not Jacob Fatu is going to be in the main event. WWE 27 minutes ago put out a video that says that Jacob Fatu is ready for Tribal Combat. It's a promo that looks like it might have even been on the countdown at the beginning, but we may have missed. I'm not sure, but they're certainly promoting it at the moment. Again, they were on the thing. It does look pre-recorded. Could have been filmed at any time. Don't get me wrong. It could also be backstage. It's kind of hard to tell. But yeah, at the moment they are promoting it, and again, we'll keep you up to date if anything breaks on the countdown show. This is your watch along experience for that. But the idea of this show is to get you hyped up and in the mood. Basically, this is the build-up show from the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling team. We like to talk last-minute rumors and things like that, and just get you hyped up and in the mood for the big PLE. And again, hopefully it's going to be a good one tonight. Got a good card, so we'll continue to break that down as well. Let us know what you're most looking forward to, by the way, as well, guys. But yeah, myself and Lucas both seem to think that on this occasion, at least, it'll be Gunther not quite having enough for Cody Rhodes and Cody going over, and that might go against WWE, but we'll see how it works out. Let's move into the next match to predict. I know Lucas was talking a little bit earlier on about Sol Ruca and her kind of rise into this position, and how it's kind of been a little bit kind of up and down, but generally speaking, I think she's in a good position. I agree with you, Lucas. Yes, you had that kind of somewhat sloppy and then edited Soul Snatcher, but my goodness, when you've got such an incredible move like that, it's bound to go slippery once or twice. So I think even the recovery was great. So I don't think it's anything people need to dwell on, but it is, again, a bit of an example, as you kind of alluded to earlier on, that difference coming into, the bigger, the brighter lights, essentially, on this roster. I do think she's done well so far, and I'm looking forward to this. I don't think it is where they changed the title, because, you mentioned earlier on, Becky's lost it twice already. This certainly feels like, exactly what we thought it might be, right? Becky putting over this title and new people constantly, and we got it with Lyra, we got it with AJ Lee. Yes, of course, AJ's a legend and has come back herself, but she wasn't in and around, they didn't have that title when she was around before, so she put her over as well. She's doing a great job at it. I do think ultimately it probably makes sense for Sol Ruca to do it. I mean, someone's got to beat Becky, right? And it does feel like that kind of nice stopgap that they didn't have before. If you came into the main roster, you either did nothing of significance because there were no titles to go for, or you went for the top championship, and that felt a bit too much of jump. Unless you had been NXT champ for a year or something like Asuka, it felt like a bit of a big jump. Whereas Sol Ruca coming in and being able to go for a mid-card title, I think makes a lot of sense. I mean, you could argue even that's a step up for someone just debuting, because it's still a championship opportunity from the get-go. But I do think it's much better than them going for the world title each time, and that being the only significant feud they can go into. When it comes to this match itself, though, as I say, I do, again, it's another one of those where I could see it being Sol Ruca, but again, it feels like a show where they're going to go with a safe bet. I think, looking back, actually, if you look at all the titles, if I take a step back, you do all the title matches, maybe this is the most likely to change, in the sense that it's the least, I don't want to say least important, but I mean, it is the least important. It's not one of the world titles, is it? It's not the, I don't have to say that, because I do think they've done such a great job at making this mean something, but it's supposed to be a mid-card championship, so by proxy, it is the least important out of the ones that are on the card tonight. But so therefore, I think maybe the most likely that they wouldn't mind switching over, because I don't think it matters for the storyline going ahead. Becky's still Becky, Soul is still Soul. If anything, she gets the rub and it makes it look good. Whereas I think they probably see, you know, different stories coming out of the two kind of men's world title matches instead.
Yeah,
What
I
are your
mean,
thoughts on this one?
yeah. So obviously you've got an interesting one where they've obviously already had a match as well, haven't they? And they already had a match that had like a really dodgy finish.
And
They
it
seem
was
to
it
obviously
not for
be.
the title as well? That one, was that
It
not
wasn't.
for the
Yeah, it
title?
wasn't the
Yeah,
title. And obviously,
weirdly decided to be that as well.
yeah, it was a very weird finish with that as well. Obviously, and the thing is, don't get me wrong, I'm actually not against them using Saturday Night's Main Event for that purpose, for one match. I wouldn't want to see it in every single match, but I do think it's Javon Evans, is in the crowd. You know, probably wondering, you know, it'd be nice if we had a match, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
But yeah,
maybe he faces Roman.
he's in the crowd. You know what it reminds me of when they do something like that? Remember WWF New York back in the day? When they'd send like
Yeah,
whoever Vincent Light basically would end up there having to host, like, you know,
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
pay-per-views. It was always like Big Show, wasn't it? Big Show, Mick Foley, so
Yeah,
it'd be like, oh yeah,
yeah, and then
so
sometimes you get like a Test or a Hardcore Holly.
yeah.
I feel you might have seen them as
There was
well.
always someone you didn't know, annoyed Vince, you know, in the recent days or whatever. And he just went, yeah, you're going to go and stand there and be that guy.
Yeah,
But anyway, that's what reminds
eat
me when they
some
have the two with the
wings.
wrestlers like surrounding the crowd. But yeah, back to
Yeah,
Becky and Soul. It's an interesting one because obviously Jessica Carr has been this, you know, constant force, really, really winding up Becky throughout, pretty much throughout her whole title reign, I think, isn't it? Been almost a
yeah,
year now. Maybe one of the longest storylines they've got going, I think, as bonkers as that sounds. You know, a referee and a wrestler.
mm.
But that's also a factor. Like, is she going to be the referee tonight? Because I think if she's a referee, I think there's a good chance we should see a new champion.
It's
You
a good
know,
point. Yeah, I've never thought that before. Where I've ever gone into a match and seen who the ref is and gone, oh, I think I know the finish.
because Becky's like pushed her, Becky's got in her
Yeah,
face, Becky disrespected her, like she's you know, verbally kind of abused her and stuff, and during promos, she complained about her
yeah.
to Adam Pearce. You know, how soon is it until Becky, you know, does something that, you know, Jessica doesn't like and decides,
Mm.
you know, hey, let's take business into our own hands, kind of thing. Do you
The
know what I mean?
old El Hebner Triple
Yeah,
H feud,
yeah.
I guess. It's a little similar to that, isn't it? I mean, what did you think of the Saturday Night's Main Event? I like the fact it was creative and it was different. But again, I've only been catching up on things. Literally today I watched Saturday Night's Main Event.
Mm.
But I was a bit taken aback by Lillian announcing the winner as Becky, keeping the title because it was Soul Ruca. No, it was Soul Ruca the move. Or was it the other way around? Basically, who did they announce as the actual?
Well,
Oh,
no, they announced
Soul
like
won.
they announced that Soul won by DQ. Yes, they
Yeah,
announced
because
Soul won by
Becky
DQ because
pushed.
obviously Soul was going for the move,
Yeah,
and then Becky pushed Jessica
pushed
Carr
her.
in
Yeah,
front of her
but
intentionally.
I felt, even though that does make sense, don't get me wrong, I felt like when I first saw it that she was DQing Soul because she had been hit by Soul, even though it's not Soul's fault and whatever else, right?
Mm.
I thought that was going to be the story they told, but Soul was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't mean to do it,"
I
and
think
then
that would have
Becky's
actually been
running
better.
away laughing. Yeah,
I
because
think
that's what I
that
thought
would
they
have
were
actually
doing.
been
But
better.
then
But
Lillian announced it without actually seeing. Obviously, we know all this is
what
all gonna
think the
work,
referee?
right? But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the ref didn't even have a chance to tell Lillian what the DQ. There's that Lillian decided who the winner was. When in those spots, it's the ref
John
going,
Booker thing.
"Oh my gosh, I got hit," and everyone going, "No, it weren't them, it weren't them."
Mm.
But the ref's going, "No, no, no, they hit me." Like we didn't even. It was really weird. It worked still. Don't get me wrong, but I felt like the other option maybe was the better one, or maybe even was the one they were meant to do. And Lillian said the wrong name. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think it would have been better from a heat magnet point of view
Mm,
for it to have gone that way. But I guess because they got the Jessica Carr thing, I think they needed a decision that would work against Becky, but wouldn't see
yeah,
Soul be pinned. And this was the solution they came up with. But I think if it wasn't you know, Jessica Carr, I'd have argued yes, a referee disqualifying Soul would get immense heat. And would obviously gear people up for a rematch. And then obviously Becky would have been like, well, I've already beaten you. I'm not going to beat you. I don't
yeah.
get beat again. And obviously gone down that road. And then obviously we could have got, you know, a face-to-face on Raw or whatever, which then would have obviously confirmed the match happening. But to be fair, even with that, they confirmed that match straight away, didn't they? You know, on the broadcast of Saturday Night Match main event. So
Yeah, in the same city. Yeah.
yeah, we did quite a lot. But yeah, I'd like Soul to win, you know, but I do anticipate we are going to be seeing and still champion Becky Lynch.
All right, yeah, I agree with you. But again, I do think this is an option. But again, this show could really go either way. I just got a bad feeling that it will only go in one direction. But again, we'll see as we dive further into these comments and these predictions. Speaking of comments, let's get to some of those before we do move into the next match. Mark says, as things stand, there will be a Brock over 3. I do think that's probably going to happen. Wade's a shout, he says, as far as facing Roman Reigns. Maybe not the Glasgow guy, and instead it's a guy from England instead. Gabriella says they could break the ring with Brock and Oba. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought back that spot. I think it's overdone, but...
Someone else mentioned that this should be an event for that reason. They had the ring break spot.
Yeah.
That could be a good way to obviously set up the third match. They can have a draw in this one, then they can go to the third match where it's just...
And what a visual as well. If they go ahead with a tribal match here, like, and Jacob's fine, like, they don't need the ring. Do you remember, the one where Brock lifted up the... Because it is going to be basically an ODQ match. Yeah, so, like, it's a similar image to that, even though they didn't cause it. It wouldn't really be the worst kind of match to have on fourth, but Brock tends to want to get out there, and it's interesting to see he's not scheduled to be the first match either. A few more of these comments and then we get into more predictions. Mark also says Liv Morgan ahead of Rhea Ripley versus Jade. Cargill says, I think that despite my long messy history of Rhea, her and Jade are probably the most two impressive physical specimen women we have in WWE. They're both super powerful, super strong. I don't know how tonight is going to go, but you know what's interesting about both of those ladies? I beat them both. They're great, but they're not as great as Liv Morgan. But Liv, we need to see you on the cards to just be reminded of how good you actually are. First hour will be Cody versus Gunther and Rhea versus Jade. Says Mark, yeah, there is a report going around that then it would be Lesnar versus Oba, Becky versus Sol, and then Roman versus Jacob. Again, we'll get to that in just a bit. Oba chants on the outside of the arena, says Mark. Gabriella says, one of my friends one of my friends is like the soundtrack of Clash in Italy. It's a big artist. I can't name drop. Oh, fantastic. Mark also says, yeah, WrestleTalk posted the Jacob video. Looks like he's there. Javon is there tonight as well. Again, we've just seen him on the Countdown show. Mark says, I think it's safe to say that Jess will be reffing the Becky match, as we said just a moment ago. And then clarifying what we were talking about there, yes, that Sol had won by DQ in that match at Saturday night's main event. I think there was a miscommunication and someone missed their cue. There was something a little odd about it.
Yeah,
even though, again, I do think it was a good spot. Right, let's get to what is our next prediction. Again, we've talked about the Women's Intercontinental Championship match, so it's now time to talk about what is actually set to be in this position on the show, apparently, if you believe the reports, and that is the third match of the night, set to be Brock versus Oba. Now, I feel weird saying this, Lucas, but I'm quite disappointed by this, because I liked what they did with Brock's retirement. Now, we all felt like it might not be the case. I appreciate it was a shocking moment when he came back. And I also appreciate that, and as I said at the time, this is the kind of thing that Brock would just do. It felt a little bit out of character, which is why it felt special for Brock to do his kind of emotional farewell, but also, yeah, a typical Brock thing to just be like, I'm done. So it was kind of, you could believe either way at the time because of Brock and the kind of character he is. Bringing him back, to me, devalues what we saw in the first one. Now, I'd imagine there will be a third, and it might end with Oba winning, and maybe this is all because Gunther's going to retire Brock, as heavily rumoured for the past few months as well. But I just can't help but feel like they just shouldn't have done it. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on this one?
It's a hard one because, I mean, the original thing, obviously Brock retiring, at present, it seems that it is, that was Brock going into business for himself. It wasn't a scripted thing that was meant to happen. Obviously, there had been long rumoured about Brock retiring at SummerSlam this year, as it is in obviously Minneapolis, and obviously the long-awaited match with Gunther. So those things were already floating around, which would make you think that, well, how can Brock retire at WrestleMania if he's going to retire at SummerSlam? You can't have both. And I smell some TKO shenanigans, maybe.
So you really think it was legit? And they've called him back. Is that, you really think that's the case?
I think, well, I think, yeah, because obviously he returned at SummerSlam, and one would imagine he probably signed a 1-year contract to do X amount of matches. Only like 2 matches, so one of them in a Raw. Yeah, did Survivor Series, the Rumble, and now these two against Over. That's all he's done. The other option is that Brock could be doing similarly to what he did about 10 years ago now, where he just said, "Look, I'm leaving. I'm going UFC. Don't care." Blah blah. And obviously use UFC for leverage to get a new contract. And maybe it's the same thing. He said, "Look, well, I'm done. Like, I'm done. I'm going to retire. I'm not going to do your SummerSlam. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do Saudi for you. I'm not going to do that." And then that's maybe forced Tico's hand to be like, "Okay, actually, let's pay you more money." There's so many options. Sadly, with it being Brock Lesnar, you're probably never going to know because Brock doesn't do podcasts or appearances. He's not one to kind of talk about this stuff. But definitely, there's been a pivot post WrestleMania because I think Paul Heyman's reaction to this all probably speaks more volumes than anything else. Really, Paul Heyman, insisting that he should be on the then part of the opening segment and stuff, and doing a very, very emotional promo about him, obviously on the Raw after WrestleMania, where he mentioned him and stuff. So I think there was definitely like a lot of surprise as to what went down, and even his reaction. I know Heyman's a genius, but even his reaction on the show showed that like something's going on here. In terms of this match, though, I think if we isolate it away from that situation, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I can't deny that. I loved their first match, so that's why it feels weird to be saying this kind of stuff.
I think even Meltzer gave it 4.5 stars. It was barely 5 minutes long, but it just goes to show you don't always need to have 20, 25, 30 minutes of like crazy, dangerous spots and near falls and interference from half the crowd and half the bloodline. Like you sometimes just need like a story and a character that people know just doesn't lose, and it's so rare in wrestling now. Obviously, Brock has lost a number of matches, obviously particularly in high-profile situations, like most notably against Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. He's also just had runs at WrestleMania, etc., and SummerSlam, I believe. But to lose the way he did, that was unheard of. It didn't happen. It's like when Hogan or Goldberg got pinned clean. It was unfathomable to imagine that happening. It doesn't happen, and it was such a big moment. So how do you up it for the second one?
I mean, like I think Brock has got a win if we're going to a third, right? I mean, it'd be a shame for Oba, but he had his massive moment. Whether or not it was a legit retirement or it was a swerve or it was always planned, who knows? I still think Brock's going to win this. It'd be a shame, I guess, if they ended the feud after that, because for Oba not to be on top. But again, he still won at WrestleMania in this incredible thing, even if it did change. But either way, whether or not this feud goes on for another match or if this is the end of it, I think Brock winning is the most likely result we're going to see here. Because why does he got destroyed for the whole feud as well? We've got to remember that. Going into WrestleMania, it was weird to even predict that because it was like, well, sure, this is designed for Oba to go over, but like, can he really when he's already gone over for the entire feud? So for him to then win the rematch as well, after, the only time he's really looked bad recently was his surprise to, Brock coming back and being dominant, all right, now it's even and it gives him a chance. Typically, that's what you would see. The good guy gets his chance back. But I don't see it on this occasion. I think it makes a lot more sense for Brock to win as far as not making... Because if Brock now does have to have a retirement match at SummerSlam against maybe even Oba again, to be fair, or Gunther, I feel like it's a bit weird for him to have lost again and then gone, now who beats me next time, really kind of retires me. Be a bit weird. So, for me, I think Oba's going to lose this one.
Yeah, I mean, the only kind of comparison one I could give is Triple H losing 3 times in a row to Batista after and during WrestleMania season for 2021. Which it could also work. It could also be an option where, Oba's just the person Brock can't beat. Because that way you could then have Brock go on an absolute rampage for the next couple of months. Obviously, they're in Saudi next month, so he can fight someone and beat them. They can do the famous thing they love doing with Brock where he beats up security and announcers and they suspend him. And then he literally saying to them, He literally, you know, they can have him do the thing of Brock. What you get, and I think what future generations when they learn of him are going to find. You just get such a rawness that you don't get from other people. Where he literally can just do a promo from his bedroom or his farm, or whatever, and say, "Look, f this, I ain't coming back. I ain't coming back unless I can kill Obafemi." He'll say that in the promo. He'd get away with it because Brock Lesnar, like, do you know what I mean? He literally say that I'm not coming back until you put me in a situation where it's me and Obafemi in a cage and there's no rules and I can just batter him for hours on end. And then they just sign the match for SummerSlam and then just have it be that, that match goes, Brock's in control, Brock's, there's loads of near fall, loads of bits and pieces, they go outside the cage, on top, they want to put a roof on the cage, they go on top of the cage, through in-out tables, through barricades, but then Oba still wins and Brock has to say, look, you're literally better than me. That's another way of doing it.
Which is what it felt the first one was. I mean, I think even if it's Oba or if it's Gunther and they do actually want to do a retirement match for him now, then it's going to have to take WWE being like, you fooled us before and we can't believe it. So if you lose, we are enforcing a retirement or something like that. It's the only way, I think, because otherwise people are going to go into it thinking, this doesn't really matter. Like,
I think they have to do something really.
He'll come back if he wants to.
Out of this, they want to do something really big, and I think Brock's the right person to do it with. Have him beat up security. Have him literally beat up. I don't know. Have some plants as fans or whatever. Have him beat up those and just literally just be like, I'm not going to stop doing this until you do this stipulation. You know what I mean? Like you do the stipulation I agree to of literally. I don't know what you call it. Like basically a death match, essentially, like a fight to the finish. I don't know what you can call it. They can throw any rules at it. But you know what I love though is how we are talking about someone like Obafemi, who was a NIL deal. He was a next in line deal, and he was an athlete that came from Nigeria and came over to the WWE system through their development. He had his first match on proper NXT less than 2 years ago. And we are now talking about him realistically being within the top 3 to 5 names in this company in terms of card position. As in, I could only really think of maybe 2 or 3 people who should ever be allowed to pin him going forward. He should not be, you know what I mean? And I think one of them is Cody Rhodes. Brock Lesnar's one, and most likely Roman Reigns. I cannot think of, if you do Oba against any person else on that roster, why is he losing? I think they'd be outraged.
Yeah, unless there's shenanigans, I could see someone Gunther beating him, for example. But even that, I think, would take a really, a low blow or something like that. There will have to be. He's going to be very protected. It seems in the coming years.
Look. He no-sold an F5 at WrestleMania, and
you kind of need that, right? If Brock's going
and sat up.
If Brock's going and Goldberg's already gone, you kind of need a unbeatable monster. You kind of need it, whether he's babyface or heel. If you lose 2 of them in a short period, you kind of need to replace them with at least one. So as much as I'm not usually a fan of being like, this guy's not going to get, I mean, Gunther's kind of in that kind of bracket as well in some ways, but he'd be presented even different to Gunther. So I think if you get rid of 2 of them, Brock and Goldberg, then you kind of need. You need Obafemi to take that spot of the unbeatable guy. Is always going to, again, whether he's a babyface or a heel, it can work both ways. So
and then probably build someone up. And I think sadly there's not a person, in my opinion, on the main roster at the moment, but it's build someone up to then beat him down the line. Maybe through NXT, through obviously winning either they are on the main roster at the moment, to build them up through winning mid-card championships or whatever. But at the moment, there's those people don't exist, and they're not a large number. There's not a lot, in my opinion.
It's funny though. We're talking about him.
Talking about someone who, again, his first main roster match was in December of last year, and he was still part of NXT until January. His first proper main roster match since when he got obviously called up.
Didn't get beat for the title.
Was in February.
Didn't get beat for that title either. So
of wrestling on television, and he's at this level.
They are. They're definitely.
He's a multiple-time future world champion. Multiple time. He's Hall of Fame in 10, 15 years, already. He's the trajectory for this guy.
If it all goes the way it looks like it's going.
Yeah, you just think people like this, they need to sign them to 5, 10 year deals if they can. Like, just sign. Like, Javon Evans, he's 21. So
Yeah.
get him to a 10-year deal now. Like, why bother waiting? Like,
and it'll only be you that mess it up, right? Like, it takes something quite big to mess it up. It'd be like them just not being flavor of the month, or them themselves doing something like
like,
getting arrested. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like, it's the only kind of thing where you think like a talent that is clearly on that trajectory gets it spoiled is either by the WWE themselves focused on the wrong person for too long, or the talent themselves kind of shoots themselves in the foot as far as, you know, some sort of scandal or something like that. Not saying I predict any of that for these guys, of course, but I'm just saying they do have that kind of almost untouchable kind of, you know, feeling at the moment. They are clearly being put into really, really good positions. So hopefully it works out for them. I'm with Mark. I mean, he says, I feel they pulled the retirement too early and they could have waited another month. I mean, not even just a month for me. I think they just pulled it too early, so they should have actually done it. But again, as we have kind of touched on there, we don't know how legit it actually was and if it's changed behind the scenes or anything like that. Let's get to Lynette's comment here as well. Always good to see you, Lynette. Thanks for tuning in. It says, I see the OTC retaining and Oba defeating the Beast, Brock Lesnar, and I see Ruca winning the title, and I also see Mami retaining the title. I think Jade is going to have a team at ringside. We're going to be touching on that Jade and Rhea match very soon, Lynette. And also says, I definitely see the ruler Oba winning as well. And Mark said, yeah, the video from Fightful was showing Fatu is in attendance. There's a lot of rumours going around again about whether Fatu is going to be able to compete tonight. They are also
he's not been shown on this live.
Loads of stories going around about how they've at least discussed Drew McIntyre taking Jacobs Fatu's place, so we'll have to see about that. Sticking with the countdown show, again, this is your build up from the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling team. The idea is to get you hyped up and in the mood for the big PLE, as we also always try and do for ourselves as well, and get us hyped up for the show. But WWE, of course, have their countdown show, and this is your watch along experience for that. We'll let you know of any big news kind of coming out of that as well. At the moment, though, Lucas, they are showing a lovely promo package for the late great Bruno Sammartino, of course, of Italian descent as well. So yeah, really cool to honour Sammartino in some form, even if it's just on the countdown show. Of course, when they're in Italy, I think that's a great nod by WWE there.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely good. It's definitely a good thing. Obviously, Bruno took he took a long route back to the company. Obviously, fell out with Vince McMahon, I think, in the 80s, and then was kind of eased back in the 2010s. I think at one point he became a coach, didn't he, at the PC, or he was definitely like on Legend.
Definitely being used, yeah. He was definitely he wasn't a fan of the Attitude Era. I remember that, but yeah, he definitely got brought back into the fold. I got to say, one of my favorite, or one of the things I'm most pleased about as a wrestling fan that I saw live was his induction into the Hall of Fame at MSG. You know, a venue he's synonymous with. Again, way too young, of course, to have seen him wrestle, especially in his prime or anything like that, but always appreciated his... I mean, you look at that incredible championship reign that they're showing on the screen now. 2 incredible reigns, and it's still way, way above what we saw for Roman Reigns just a few years ago. Speaking of Roman Reigns, we're going to get to that main event and the prediction for it with Jacob Fatu in mind, and we'll also talk alternatives, of course, when we get there as well. But before we do, let's get into what is... another big match
is on screen now.
Oh yeah, let's see what he says before we go into more predictions.
Because he's speaking to Kathy Kelly. He's talking about the fans.
They're talking about tribal, yeah.
You'd think
WrestleMania
this
worthy card
now to say if the match is not taking place. It seems very generic. He's saying, you look at this card tonight, it's WrestleMania worthy. Yeah. Hyping it up. Yeah, he's mentioned Tribal Combat. He mentioned Roman Jacob by name.
And he's moved away from it now. He's talking about Brock Lesnar fake retirement. So you've got to imagine he's not going to circle back to announcing anything in this promo, at least.
Yeah, I think he's just kind of hyping the card up. Probably getting ready to be the main character to open the show.
Getting himself in the mood.
So I'm going to get that dig in every single time. So yeah, the biggest moments come from those matches on unpredictable outcome. But all 5 of his matches have that possibility to be unpredictable. Wow. Wow. Okay.
I mean, the thing is, when you get this kind of hype, you think, man, something big's got to happen. But then you look back over the past year, especially, they've overhyped a lot of shows.
He's mentioned Jacob Fatu again. Yeah. So yeah, it would seem that match is happening, because I would
unless it's announced at the end, towards the end of the show. It's just before, it could be
Well, we
Could be
are
then.
literally only like 20 minutes from the show start time. I think with them
Well,
obviously
I mean,
yourself.
the match itself, you know,
Yeah,
as the surprise being a more of a shock rather than the speculation of, oh, it's probably Drew. There's going to be a lot of wrestling fans that aren't sticking up, you know, aren't online, aren't tuned in to us, which is a real shame. But there's going to be a lot of wrestling fans that are in the dark at the moment.
Everyone likes
Exactly, so they might be holding off of that.
That's what's way we have kind of ruined surprises for ourselves with obviously the past reactions to the past years. Like Royal Rumble matches, and of course, obviously Chamber with Danhausen's debut. As we obviously hype one direction, think the next. So I think, you know, this could also be a tactic where they deliberately ignore it and then just do it.
And then it's a surprise, yeah.
Because they know once they announce it, it's out there. People are going to start thinking Hulk Hogan's coming back. You know, and
someone would be open.
But yeah, be annoyed that he's not back. You know, how dare Hulk Hogan not face Roman Reigns? Yeah. But it would seem to me a very. I think if they were to do this would be done with Adam Pearce now, not with Paul Levesque. I think obviously Paul Levesque is still the company man. He's not in storyline anything. He's, you know what I mean? He's not in storyline. So anything he says should be the company saying. If the WWE are saying X, Y, Z. Whereas it was Adam Pearce, it's storyline, isn't it? So Adam Pearce's storyline, yeah, of course he wants the match to happen, but it's the biggest match for the Raw brand. And it's a rematch and everything like that. But we shall see. What's Joe Test? Has Joe Testor dyed his hair?
It looks a little longer as well. It does look, yeah. I mean, the venue looks a little dark in itself. Maybe it's just bad lighting. I don't know. But
maybe it's little weird, like bloody, you know, school cafeteria yellow chairs they've got as well.
Yeah,
it's like canteen.
It looks a little bit like.
Why are they yellow?
What's that?
The other ones are white.
There's that venue in Stratford that I went to Royal Quest for New Japan. What's it called? Copper Box. It looks a little bit like that to me.
It looks tinny, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've got a graphic on screen. They're certainly talking about Roman and Jacob here if it is going ahead. Let's get into a match we definitely know is going ahead, and there are no injuries surrounding it at the moment. That is Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill, as we touched on earlier on. This is a rematch. Again, another example of they could change who the champion is here. I really like what they're doing with Jade Cargill. I love her group. I think that Michael Jackson tribute at Saturday Night's Main Event was fantastic. But yeah, I just don't see. I think that's the direction they should be going in, Lucas. I just don't see it at this point because Rhea's not had the title for long, and it just doesn't feel like the kind of time they would pull the trigger here. But man, it'd be a great way to get her over as a heel. She steals the title back early. Again, it's another one of those where it could go either way. I'm not massively, either side as far as this prediction goes, but if I just look at the way WWE book these shows and the way WWE books Rhea Ripley, to me that tells me Rhea Ripley comes out of this as champion. I don't know. Do you feel different?
I wish I could. Like, I think everything with Jade is just ticking so many boxes now. And what I found weird is how on SmackDown, they were acting like she's a rookie. She's been there 3 years now? 4 years?
She's been champion.
Obviously not like that's chump change people like Charlotte Flair, etc.
Yeah.
But, she's not like she's just been called up like the NXT girls fair influence recently had. She's been there a while and she's accomplished stuff. She's been a women's world champion. She's won Queen of the Ring. She was a tag champion twice with Bianca Belair.
Yeah.
Been part of
big storylines.
She's been in the Chamber, she beat that Saudi in the Rumble, etc. It's not literally like she's just come off the street and decided to wrestle.
Yeah.
Those yellow chairs are horrid. So I keep seeing.
Yeah, I see what you mean now. They're actually they literally look like they'll be stacked up.
From Italy, on the PLE, if you happen to have your phone out, please just stay seated for the entirety of the show, as I will not be able to focus if I see yellow chairs. They're horrid. Please just stay seated for the entirety of the show, even during the entrances. Just stay seated.
Please, I do not want
it. They're not as annoying though as the
the lights.
LA arena, the lights. Alien lights.
That was really annoying.
So they just showed something I hadn't considered, but Stephanie Becker on this little welcome back thing. Why has she disappeared for? It's such a weird company now. But anyway, back to this match. I would love Jade Cargill to win. I thought she should have won at Mania personally. I think they did a great this mold. of obviously having the same people in the same spots for eternity. And obviously, they're shaking it up a little bit, but obviously, Rhea now moving to SmackDown. Obviously, Rhea has mixed it up with influence. They seem to keep teasing a match between Rhea and Charlotte, which is another reason
Yeah.
why I don't think we're going to get a title change tonight. Even though
Right.
there is also a match there with Jade and Charlotte down the line, I'd argue. But I think the bigger one is always be Rhea and Charlotte, and it's a well they're going to go back to time and time again. And I think that we're probably gearing towards that being a SummerSlam match of some kind, maybe involving Alexa Bliss. And this is just the kind of stopgap, so to speak, so Rhea can get a title defense on the show, which is obviously one of the main ticket sellers now. But yeah, I really wish that there were different circumstances here. And again, this is where remember like the Shawn Michaels Chris Jericho feud. They didn't need a belt in it, so they took the belt away, and the feud actually did better without the belt being part of it. It wasn't needed. The feud was good enough. I just think that's similar here. Like with Jade and Charlotte, or with Rhea and Charlotte, isn't that enough? Like just to be like, look, we are the two of the biggest stars in this division. We want to have a match. Like, isn't that not a big enough story for SummerSlam or Survivor?
I mean, it's kind of similar to Seth and Gunther, right? That was kind of thrown together, but at least the story they tried to tell was like, you think you're the best? Well, I think I'm actually the best.
Yeah,
we ain't got the title, but like, who is actually the best between the two of us?
And then let Jade. Obviously, they're building her up. Obviously, she brought in Meechin and B-Fab. To give them credit, they are trying their best on the SmackDown sort of things to get as many women as possible to the show. And there is somewhat depth, and they still can't seem to find more than one person to be in a segment with Tiffany Stratton at the moment, it seems. But I just see it as like, why wouldn't all the women that work there want to be having title matches? Like, it doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
And that's where I'm always going to root for them for the newness of anyone. Like we've touched upon them before. Like I just think if they do, go down the route of Fatal Influence, getting in with Rhea Ripley or getting in with Tiffany Stratton, I'd beg for a title change of that. Like, you want anything different now, do you know what I mean? Like, you just don't want more of the same. But I think in this one we are going to get Rhea Ripley retaining. This one I think probably the one I'm most certain of, to be fair, throughout the whole card. Just clarify as well, I don't know if I said, but I'd much like want Brock and Over to be a draw. I'd love it to be on last and to get the ring break thing. I do think Brock will clarify. I didn't
I didn't think about a draw being an option, to be fair, but I still would go with Brock as well. I mean, in this one, I'm with you. I'm going with Rhea, but I think I've really enjoyed, as I say, what they've done with Cargill. I think maybe they did need to take the pressure off, even though she's still in the world title picture or a world title picture. Her not being champ probably gives her a chance to grow with her stable. I think this is a long-term thing. And again, there is the perception that she is new still and all that kind of... It's kind of part of her kind of... Everybody talked about it outside of the company, right? It was always seen as like, she's a big star from AEW, but she's still green because she ain't been around for long. And that's always been a part of her... Not a presentation from WWE, but the outside view. And that's seeped into the presentation in WWE. And they've kind of stuck with it lately. So I think that's where that kind of comes from. But I think, to work with that, I think that's why they put her into this little stable. I think I really like what they're doing. I hope it does well for all three of them. But I'm with you. I don't see the title changing here as well. We're about 15 minutes away from the show kicking off, Lucas. We will get into our prediction for the Tribal Combat match. Again, there's a lot of rumours going around about it not being what we expect. So before we get to that, I do want to give just a few moments to talk about a match that took place recently in Mexico, where we saw El Grande Americano versus the original El Grande Americano. Just want to see your thoughts on this and the entire kind of feud and the way it's kind of gone down, because it's something that was so ridiculously overly manufactured but ended up having an insane amount of heart and being legit, and like it somehow turned into this, again, real hearty performance. The match itself, by the way, amazing. No match on this card at Clash in Italy or this weekend or anytime soon I think is gonna touch that. But for me, it just kind of, even within the match itself, the stories they told in that match, I think even if you've been watching the feud, from on the periphery like I have, it told you so much about what's been going on, and I just thought it was so well played. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought it was excellent. I watched most of the AAA show. And I thought it was very good. You know, I know it's 2 parts, and the next week they've got a 6-woman tag match. I think Bailey's and Lola Vice, and I can't remember who else, but yeah, they're part of it. It's just a 2-week event. I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, this match was incredible. Personally, I think probably one of my favourite matches of the year.
Yeah, me
I
too.
think it was really good. The story that they told throughout this match, and all the kind of throwbacks, all stuff that's happened in the feuds. And the thing is, as well, like one of those where there's been stuff that's happened on AAA, stuff that's happened in WWE, and stuff that's happened on social media or whatever, and they kind of find a way to really just make it all work.
Trying to
And
blend it, yeah.
it's testament to both wrestlers. You know, I still maintain this belief that if Chad Gable was about half a foot taller, he's a multiple-time world champion in any generation. He's so talented, but it's just the fact that he's small. And I just think that under both managements that he's worked under, you know, with Vince now with Hunter, they obviously favour the big guys being in the main event. And I think it's one of those where he's so talented. And I still think, and I think, like, on my deathbed, I think one of my final words will be this: Chad Gable should have beat Gunther at WrestleMania. Like, absolutely.
Yeah, I
Like,
agree with you. I
you know, I
mean,
think
I don't know if it'll be on
they
my
went for
deathbed, but I
Sammy,
agree with the
wrong.
sentiment.
They went for Sammy, it was wrong. The yellow chairs are back, they're also wrong. But oh dear, but yeah, yeah, but yeah, absolutely incredible match. Absolutely
Yeah.
incredible match. I mean, if anyone hasn't watched it, depending on how the adverts go tonight, you probably have enough time to watch it during the ad breaks.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
this
I will
show.
say, actually, I won't. People might have seen it when I won't say who it is, just in case you have avoided it and
Yeah.
you want to watch it. I spent the whole match knowing who the winner was, and I still was really, and I was worried it had ruined it for me. I was still massively emotionally invested in it, even when 2 counts were coming. You know when you get that pit in your stomach going, "Oh my gosh!" I knew what was going to happen, and I still was like, maybe,
Oh, it was incredible.
even yeah. But it was so good. Again, we'll leave it there just because I don't want to kind of spoil anything, just in case someone's managed to avoid it and they want to watch it in that sense. But I do recommend it. I mean, they might even show stuff on here. There might be stuff relating to it on this show, so that might get spoiled for you anyway. But I'm not going to be the one to do it. Let's move into the main event, Lucas. Again, loads of rumors that Jake Fatu may not be able to compete, even if he is injured. This is the kind of match where they can work around it. But let's kind of take a step back and imagine everything's going to go ahead as normal. If that was the case, Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu, which again might be what we get anyway. Who do you think's going to win? For me, I'm going Roman Reigns, and therefore it doesn't matter if he's injured because Roman Reigns is still the champ either way at the end of the night. Or they could have someone return and maybe it is Drew and they do win. But let's stick this kind of festival. We're about 11 minutes away from the show starting. As it's advertised, Roman versus Jacob Fatu. What do you reckon's going down?
Yeah, Roman Reigns. He hasn't lost Tribal Combat yet, and he's not going to lose it again. Also, not lose it this time. Sorry. I think regardless of who he faces, he's winning. Annoyingly, basically, they've got belts on people who we just know aren't going to lose easily. We're not going to lose randomly either. It seems. Obviously, they've got Roman, they've got Cody, and they've got Rhea. Liv is at the moment unproven because she hasn't been featured. And they've decided that all the women don't want to fight her. But yeah, it just seems they've got 3 people definitely where it's screaming either SummerSlam or Mania, you know, which it's very early to say that, particularly with the Mania argument. Or SummerSlam's a bit closer, but it just feels like a bit like, yeah, it's going to be, you know, it's going to go a bit further. I think that the tribal combat thing usually is, well, not usually, it's always used just to get the outside interference in the match and potentially debut another member of the bloodline. And I don't think we need that latter bit.
Yeah.
I think the interference is enough. We get that anyway, don't we? But yeah, like I think that it does seem from everything we've seen in the pre-show, although we have not seen, I repeat this, we have not seen Jacob Fatu live in person during this broadcast at all, or even during the arrivals or backstage or anything. We have not seen any of this. Because they showed a video package, they've obviously had Triple H discuss it, you know, part of this pre-show as well. It does seem like this match is going to happen. But even if this match doesn't happen and it's someone else, and I do think it will be someone else, I see a few comments by the way of people saying that they think the match might end up just getting cancelled and that'll be it. Yeah, I mean, they're not flying Roman over on a plane and paying him money to not wrestle. But even if it doesn't happen, I still anticipate that Roman Reigns would win. would win. I don't see. Especially if it does change, it wouldn't make it. Well, if it does change, to be fair, depending on who it is, it could make sense for a title change to happen. I guess you could argue it open up more, but I just think they're not going to do it. I don't read too much into the fact that Roman Reigns is not going to be on television, for June, as obviously he's not doing Saudi. I wouldn't read too much into that. I just think, well, he's a part-time champion anyway, isn't he? So, like, he's just going to take
and
instead of taking like 2 weeks off and then coming back for like 2 weeks doing a pay-per-view and then going away for 2 weeks, he's taking it all off in one go.
it's also King of the Ring, right? Because as Mark says, they just announced the brackets will be released after the show, King of the Ring. But I mean, if that's the case, you don't need the world champion on that show anyway. So it does give him that step away.
Hopefully they do. I know we're moving on to King of the Ring, but hopefully they don't do the triple threats thing. I hope they just do like a 16-person tournament. Or just a tournament. Remember John Cena? Yeah, that thing hasn't
materialized. Yeah, when's that going to be? Yeah.
I guess they're going to wait to King of the Ring's out the way. But yeah, there'd been no mention on that at all.
Can't be close. That was such a weird announcement. Such a weird announcement. We are a few minutes away from the show kicking off, guys, and the announcers are making their way to the ring. Everybody seems hyped. There's a good atmosphere, it seems. A lot of yellow chairs that are upsetting Lucas, but other than that, it does look like I like the logo. I like the stage that they've got. It's minimal, but it's still pretty cool and effective and kind of has its own character. This venue, it seems, as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I think the presentation is going to be something that helps this show, as it tends to do in Europe, even if WWE don't pull the trigger on certain results or certain kind of storyline progressions. But yeah, I mean, it's looking like it should be a fun show either way. Hopefully it's going to be memorable for the right reasons. They might have walked themselves into or forced themselves into a surprise. If it is Drew McIntyre, for example, it might be the biggest thing coming out of the show. Or maybe, as you mentioned earlier on, Tribal Combat, the opportunity to bring someone in. Maybe that someone becomes the challenger rather than the person to attack or whatever it may be. So there are a few options here. Look, we are, as I say, just a few minutes away, Lucas, from the show kicking off. We just want to say thank you to everyone that's tuned in, whether you've watched with us before or you're joining us for the first time. We appreciate you. Please subscribe if you want to see more of our content. As I mentioned earlier on, we've also been privileged enough to go to WWE events to represent Rebellious Noise in the past. So we've had great interviews with the likes of LA Knight, Gunther, Finn Balor, just to name a few, at Clash in Cardiff, which was Clash at the Castle, of course. But look, we're very close now to another Clash show that hopefully gets even a sniff of the excitement that one did. I don't think it will, because that was so off the charts, but I am looking forward to a decent show either way. As I say, this is the build-up show. It's designed to kind of get us all hyped up and in the mood for the PLE, talking last-minute rumours and predictions. The biggest rumour going around at the moment, guys, is that Jacob Fatu is injured and unable to compete. WWE wouldn't kind of let you think that, though, because they are still advertising that match, but there are a lot of rumours about replacements, and of course the biggest name, as you might expect, is Drew McIntyre. But it might not happen. We might see Jacob versus WWE World Champion Roman Reigns, and that might actually work against them, that these rumours are going around there, because people might expect something bigger now here as well. Mark says, loud pop for the Italian announce team. Headphones will be needed tonight. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, mate. I think the atmosphere, again, is electric already, so hopefully once the show kicks off, it will kind of keep that way throughout the event itself. Lucas, we are, as I say, 5 minutes away. Let's kind of quickly wrap up and talk about, again, do you see any other possible scenario for a replacement for Jacob Fatu here that maybe we haven't thought of?
And I think we listed the main ones, obviously. Solo Sikoa, touched upon Drew McIntyre, we touched on...
Solo's a great one.
Oh, Jey Uso, yeah, the Jey Uso one. Or Uso.
Yeah.
That had to be Jay.
No, I think that messes things too much up. Like too much. I don't know what I'm saying. It's too messy because they clearly want to do something with the Uso. So I think Solo is the easiest fit. I think that's the one that makes the most sense.
Also, particularly because obviously Solo was the person who Jacob faced, got the injury in, so they could maybe if they're quick enough, they could crop something from the match to say that that's how it happened or whatever.
Yeah.
They do. And yeah, it just allows them to continue the storyline of the Bloodline stuff a bit more. Yeah. LA Knight is another one. Sorry, that's been mentioned. LA Knight.
Yeah. And imagine that, like if he somehow won the title because of it, like so unexpected. They've done things like that before. I mean, saying that, we could be coming out of this in a few hours' time, and Jacob Fatu is your new World Heavyweight Champion. I mean, if he's still in the match, I don't see it happening, but there's a lot of possibilities here.
Well, yeah, I think to be fair, now they've made with all these rumours, it now makes if Jacob was to win, that is like one of the most unlikely options, you know.
Yeah, true.
Which I don't know if it's by design, but
Could
you know,
be.
interesting tactic, isn't it? And it's an
It really
interesting
is.
thing we'll have to study afterwards. But like I said, we are about to start the show. Just don't forget, guys, we do cover most WWE and PLEs, sometimes NXT, bits and pieces. We do obviously stuff like this what you're watching right now, the Countdown show, which obviously we go through match by match with in-depth analysis. Sometimes we're joined by some guests, particularly for the ones that are a bit later on, actually, weirdly. But these ones being the United Kingdom, being in Europe, sorry, make it easy for us to watch and comment on these kind of things. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Obviously, if you are a fan of our content and you are a fan of obviously seeing more of this stuff, as obviously we will be covering another good one for us. We know, obviously, political situation aside, is of course the King and Queen of the Ring stuff, because that will be in Saudi Arabia and also has an early start time for us in the United Kingdom. And so we'll be covering that. And there's a lot of stuff to say about King of the Ring. But anyway, it's literally about to kick off. I think, oh, no,
It looked like it looked like the thing, didn't it? I thought I saw that. It was like, I was like, hold on a minute, that's a bit soon.
But then, now, forever, you know.
I thought I saw that as well. Okay, first botch of the night. Let's hope there's no more. Look, again, I'm looking forward to the show. I think you summed it up there perfectly, Lucas. We've got a lot of great great content coming your way. Speaking of comments, appreciate everyone that tuned in and again joined the conversation and those lurking in the back. This has been your build-up show from the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling team. Enjoy it, Clash in Italy, and we'll see you on the next one, guys. Hopefully we'll be coming out of this show with a lot of big storylines. Take care, and hey, spike your hair. Woo woo woo. Bye.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.